Hello and welcome to Yes, You Are Brave. This is a podcast where we are going to set off on a journey together to find and build our brave, where we explore all the ways that you have been brave and all the ways that you can be brave again. Because even though we may have forgotten or we may have fallen out of practice, we're all brave. And I'm on a mission to prove it and help you believe that yes, you are brave. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Yes, You Are Brave. I'm Pawnee, I'm your host. Super excited you are here. Let's talk brave, shall we? Okay, so this week I want to talk about how to listen to your intuition, okay? Or being brave enough to learn how to develop your intuition, because I think that sometimes we jump to this whole oh, you got to follow your intuition, you got to follow your gut, whatever it is you want to call it. But the simple fact of the matter is it's not really something that we're taught explicitly how to follow your intuition. We talk about it a lot and we act like it's supposed to be this simple thing. So it is very brave, yes, to follow your intuition, to learn how to listen to it and to go with your gut. But it's also brave to learn how to use that, because like a lot of brave things in our lives, following your intuition, that's a skill. And like many brave things also in our lives, if it's a skill, that means you can learn it. So let's jump into learning how to use our intuition a little bit and see if we can't maybe shed some light on this. And I, by no means, am claiming to be an expert on this, but I have learned a few things over the years that I think might be helpful to share for you. So let's jump into it. First of all, I want you've got to believe in yourself, okay? Learning to follow your intuition, learning to listen to your intuition and do those things that you know are right is learning to trust yourself. And that sometimes is a difficult process. And I know it feels like, oh yeah, of course I should trust myself. But sometimes it can be harder than others. So you got to give yourself a little bit of grace, and you have got to realize that you are capable of finding these answers. You are capable of getting the answers, having the answers, and you got to believe that you can do it. You got to believe in yourself that you are capable of doing this, that you can develop this skill, also while giving yourself some grace and some room to maybe make some mistakes and maybe not get everything right on the first try. That being said, the next thing that I want to say is when we are talking about our intuition, okay, now a lot of people, everybody calls it something a little bit different, and it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's that internal knowing, right? It's whether you want to, if you're a spiritual person or a religious person and you want to call it spirit, you want to call it direction from God, whether you're using the word universe, whatever you're calling it, whether you're like a good old-fashioned cop show and you just want to call it your gut, whatever it is, it's that knowing, it's that direction that comes from within, and you don't necessarily need somebody from the outside to tell you what it is. So the first thing that I want to talk about is you are always getting messages. We are always getting messages from your mind, from your body, and a lot of times I feel like one of the hardest parts about learning to develop your intuition is we live in a world that is so fast-paced and where distraction is just rampant. We are expected to be always doing a million things, and we've all got a device in our hand at all the time that has access to pretty much all the information in the entire world. And of course, we get distracted. We feel like our attention spans are getting pulled in so many different directions, and it is very easy to not get those messages. But your mind is trying to send you messages. Your body is trying to send you messages. And so the first thing I think that we need to do when we're learning to listen to our intuition is we need to start making a conscious effort to be in a place where we can actually hear those messages, where we can let the chatter die down, where we can block out those distractions, and we can actually have a few minutes every day or a couple times a day to sit and listen and hear those particular messages. Because I think a lot of times we are just like, oh, go, gotta be entertained, gotta be watching something, gotta be doing something all the time. And then guess what? There's no time to actually hear those messages. So of course you can't follow your intuition because You're not hearing it because you're not putting yourself in a place that is quiet enough to actually listen to them and hear them. So that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about, is sometimes we just need a little bit of time and space away from the world. And I'm not just talking like being alone at home, because you can be very distracted alone at home watching whatever it is, or you still have access to the entire world basically on your device. And so you can bring that in and be super distracted. So that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about, is just making sure that you are occasionally putting yourself in a place to actually hear messages and receive messages. The next thing with those messages, a lot of times I feel like, and this is something that I've been experiencing lately, resistance comes up, right? We make a decision or we go in a direction, and then there is all of this resistance. And I feel like it's a little confusing sometimes because we don't always know what the resistance is trying to tell us, right? And I know I've had a previous episode about leaning into the resistance, which is episode 35. I'll link it below. But the tricky part is sometimes with resistance and or fear is that we're not exactly sure what it's trying to tell us. Because on one hand, a lot of times when we make a decision and we head off in a direction, it's the right direction. But we also we meet all this resistance. And we meet all this resistance because it is the right direction. And so we start going and everything seems to be going wrong. And we struggle with, wait a minute, maybe this is the wrong way. Maybe I shouldn't go this way. But the resistance actually comes up because it is the right decision. On the other hand, sometimes we make a decision or we decide to do something and we head off down that road, and there is all this resistance. There's all this fear, there's all this struggle because it is the wrong decision. And I know that is super frustrating. And I know that there's both schools of thought of like, how do you know if this resistance is because it's the right decision or because it's the wrong decision? Because I feel like a lot of times there can be both. So I want to talk about that for just a few minutes. And that kind of leads me into the next point that I wanted to make with this resistance. When you make a decision and you start moving and you meet all of this resistance, I want you to think about, is there peace in the decision that you've made? So if you made this decision, you feel at peace and you start moving and there is all of this resistance, all of these things coming at you, all of these things seem to be going wrong, but there is still a peace, there is a calm in this decision, in this direction that you are headed. I feel like that is the resistance telling you that yes, this is actually the way that you're supposed to go. And maybe it is just the Lord or the universe's way of testing you and seeing, do you really want it? Because if you really want it, you're going to have to go through a few things and you're going to have to do some work in order to be able to get there. You have to sometimes work for things that you really want and work through that resistance to actually be the person that you need to be to get to where you want to go. And so that, I think, is one of the biggest things that comes, one of the biggest ways to listen to the resistance, because a lot of times it can be both. On the other hand, if you make a decision and you start heading down that road and there is no peace in that resistance, there is no calm in that resistance, the feelings are more akin to panic. They're more akin to like this like deer in the headlights. Everything feels off. Everything feels wrong. Everything feels like it doesn't fit. It's like you've put on somebody else's shoe and no matter how you move your foot around, it just doesn't fit. Or even you put on a new shoe. I know sometimes I go shoe shopping and there's a pair of shoes and I really like them and I really want to wear them, but they just don't work for my foot. And no matter how many times I tie or retie or adjust my foot or change my socks, that shoe just does not fit my foot. So sometime that's, I think, how you can know that the resistance is telling you this isn't really the best way for you. But you got to explore the resistance. And yes, a lot of times, like I said, the resistance is a sign that you're on the right path and that you are headed in the direction that is going to bring you the most out of what you're doing. But you got to know what it's actually telling you. So if you are headed in the right direction, there's going to be peace in your decision. There's going to be a calm in your decision. And it's going to feel like even though things are bumpy and things are rocky and things are difficult, there's still a peace, there's still a calm, and you feel like you're still going in the right direction even though things get hard. Whereas if there's all this resistance comes up and all of a sudden you are panicky and all of a sudden you feel like, not just like, oh, this is overwhelming because there's a lot to do, because that happens even when you're going the right way, but in that sense of the panic that like, this isn't right, that, you're it's like one of those times when, you're walking somewhere, you're going somewhere, and for some reason it just feels wrong. And so you take a different turn, you go somewhere else. Later you find out that there was some big accident or something there. It's that kind of panic, that this isn't, the panic that almost is like this isn't safe because it doesn't fit and it's not going to work out. So that's kind of, I think, the most generally for me has been one of the most, I guess, clear cut, even though that's not super clear cut, ways of telling if the resistance is telling me that it's right or that it's wrong. Because sometimes it can feel like it could be either or. Just look for that peace in your decision and in the path that you're taking. I'm not saying not looking for easy, because easy is not necessarily the same as peace. But you can be going through terribly difficult, hard things and still know, no, this is right. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This feels like me. This feels like what I'm supposed to be doing. This feels right. And when we have that feeling, that's when we can know that the resistance is telling us that, yeah, guess what? This is right. You just have to work for it and really, because a lot of times, let's be real, our goals, especially when they are big, they require us to change. And I think sometimes the resistance is there to help us grow and help us get rid of those things that we no longer need or that are holding us back from where we're going to be. And so we have to work through that resistance. We have to lean into it. And we can lean into it with that peace. But if the peace never comes, then that probably means that that is not the right path. The resistance is telling you, no, this isn't where you need to go. So the last thing that I want to talk about in learning to listen to your intuition is that you have got to be willing to make mistakes. Again, I said it is a skill. Listening to your intuition, following your intuition, it's a skill and it can be learned. And like any other skill, you're not going to be able to learn it. You're not going to be able to master it if you are not willing to make mistakes. Okay? You have got to be willing to make mistakes. And like anything, you're going to fall down sometimes. You're going to mess up. And that's okay. That's totally fine. This time of year, I don't know why it's popping up on my newsfeed, but there's been a lot of things about the gymnastics competitions. And I don't understand what they all are. But, the comeback of Simone Biles and Suni Lee and things like that. And I was just watching a video clip not too long ago where somebody fell off the beam. They were in the middle of their routine. They almost landed this last thing of this combination, and then she overcorrected and she fell off the beam. Well, then she got back on and she finished her routine. And I thought, how many times have those type of athletes fallen off the beam? You know what I mean? So they say, okay, when this is happening, I know that, and then they learn from their mistakes. They learn that if it feels this way, then this is what this is going to happen. And so I think we need to be willing to make mistakes. Okay. Start following your intuition. Start trying to listen. And if you make a few mistakes, guess what? You're human. Congratulations. Just like the rest of us. And so you can then give yourself grace and just keep trying. Because here's the thing, action brings clarity. It's not when you're sitting here thinking about it. It's not when you're sitting there mulling it over. It's not when you're planning and all those things that you really get clarity in things. It's when you start moving. It's when you start moving. It's when you start doing. That's when you really get the clarity. That's when you really find out what you really want and what is really going to be the best. It's action brings clarity. And sometimes when we start taking action, we realize, wait a minute, this is not what I want. And that is perfectly fine, because sometimes we need to try a few things and we need to get a few very clear no's to get a better idea of what our path is, where we're going to find those yeses. Sometimes when you go down a path and you come to a place and you say, nope, this is a definite no. You go back down, you try another one. And I think that we don't always have to go down the path of no, but sometimes it can be very helpful because then you get a very definite answer. You get a very definite, this is not for me. And so sometimes that can be just as helpful as getting a very, very clear yes. A very clear no is still an answer. And so when we accept that, okay, that's a no. Also, when you go down wrong paths, I think the one thing too is we're talking about learning this skill. If we're talking about developing this skill, if we start down a wrong path and we're paying attention to how we're feeling, guess what? We don't have to get all the way to the end of this road to realize, wait, this is the wrong place. So then we learn what it feels like to go down the wrong road. We turn around, we make the correction, and then the next time we start heading down maybe a wrong road, we can recognize it sooner. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to go down a couple of side streets to get to the main place that you're going to go. You can learn how to listen to your intuition. You can learn that skill, and then you can be brave enough to use that skill in your life to make it better and to help other people's lives be better. It's a skill that can be learned. And I think that is the most amazing thing about so many of these things people talk about. We forget that not everybody knows how to do that. And not everybody is explicitly taught that. And even those people that are taught that, sometimes we forget and we need a refresher course. So this week, I want to challenge you to start making time to be in a quiet place, to be able to listen to the messages that are coming from your mind and from your body, because you will feel them in your body. A lot of times your mind is going to send you messages through your body because that's the only way it can get you to listen. So make time to start listening to your intuition, to start developing that. Remember that it is a skill and you can develop skills. And the thing that's going to benefit you the most is realizing that this is something you don't have to have validation from the outside. You don't have to have people telling you what to do all the time. It's not necessary. You can learn how to trust yourself, and you can believe that you are capable of knowing and finding out the answers for yourself. That is the biggest thing. You've got to believe that you are capable, because you are. Even if it doesn't feel like you are right now, you're totally capable of getting these answers and finding the way forward. Yes, my dear, you are brave. You are brave enough to learn to develop your intuition and know how to listen to it. You can do this. I love you. I believe in you, and I am rooting for you. You have a fantastic day.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed what you've heard today, please leave a review down below and share this with anyone that you feel like could use a little more brave in their life. And if you'd like to follow more of my journey to be brave, you can follow me on social media and link down below. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to be brave.